Figures released today by the Australian Bureau of Statistics show Australian retail turnover rose 0.8% in November 2024. Joining me live to break it all down is Australian Retailers Association Chief Industry Affairs Officer Fleur Brown. Fleur, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. Are these numbers a sign of success for the Black Friday sales?
Look, they're certainly in line with our predictions. We knew that Black Friday was going to be a big winner last year. I keep wanting to say this year, but of course it was last year because people were bargain hunting. So I think it's a reflection on the cost of living crisis that we've had that we saw those figures boosted. Our numbers show a 3% year-on-year increase in November over the previous year.
So is this a sign that Black Friday sales won't be going anywhere in the near future?
Oh, absolutely not. They're definitely not only here to stay, but there's still some room for growth potentially. If you look at what happens in the US, it's an even bigger event, if you can believe it. So certainly here to stay.
And this retail increase, is that the case right across the country, or are there certain states that outperformed others?
Look, we've seen, a pretty solid result around the country in November, definitely. Look, with some nice numbers coming through. The winner was Queensland with a 4% increase year on year for the November period. So some decent spending activity happening there, and then that was closely followed by Victoria, which may also have something to do in Victoria with the low result the previous year. So, but fairly even spread around the states and territories.
And what about in terms of the retail industries that benefited most? What would you say were the biggest winners in this?
Well, look, there's this category called Other, in which sits a number of different items like, sports and recreational goods, online spending and that sort of thing. We like to call it the little luxuries category. We've seen a trend where Australians are still spending on smaller little luxury items in a sort of as an antidote to some of the household belt tightening that's been in place. Food categories also were a winner. So very happily we saw hospitality, cafes, restaurants, takeaways doing quite nicely in November compared to the previous year. And that's no doubt the way that Aussies choose to celebrate their seasonal events, particularly festive period, including Christmas, as they in the build-up, wanting to get together with loved ones, friends, family. Food categories did pretty well also during that time. So nice to see that spending activity.
And with those food categories, is that a bit of a surprise or not really, given the cost of living at the moment?
Look, we are certainly were anticipating that food and hospitality would do well in the build up to peak season, because when people are going through tough times, they're going to get together with their loved ones to feel better. They're going to celebrate, they're going to hang out together, and most often that's done around food, whether that's eating out or eating in the home. Food's, of course, an essential category as well. So there would have been plenty of people stocking up on food in the build-up to the festive season and Christmas events and the like. So not a surprise, really, to see that happening. It's still not, off the Richter scale growth, but it's robust spending in a really difficult year otherwise.
In terms of that growth as well, does that factor in price rises? We are seeing in the food category in particular as well, a number of food products becoming a lot more expensive at the moment. Does that factor that in as well?
Yes, it does. Look, there's been rising costs across the board. So, we call it the cost of doing business, really, when it comes to retail and hospitality. I've seen some debate around that, recently. Everything's gone up, and that's reflected in that number. Also reflected in that number, and worth keeping in mind, is that we've had a population boost last year, quite a significant one. And so there are more people out spending, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the average Australian is spending more, but that those extra people in the country are adding to that spending power.
And given these figures for November, what are your predictions like for December?
Well, we should keep in mind that Black Friday and Cyber Monday are a package deal. They, run across a 4-day period, including a weekend, and also, you've got the build up to Black Friday and a little bit of a tail on that event as well. We will see some of that in December, so we're still expecting that the Black Friday weekend result will flow through into December. We are hoping that overall November and December as a package that the numbers are reasonable. We were predicting a 2.7% increase over the previous year for that combined peak season spending period. So we're still optimistic that will certainly be the case. We're getting pretty good anecdotal reports about robust spending, but of course we've got to keep in mind with that number, it does reflect that increased cost of doing business for many of those retail and hospitality businesses.
Absolutely. All right, Fleur Brown from the Australian Retailers Association, thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
Very much.